Okay, this may be a one-time only deal here. I'm not a big fan of this, but I do need to hash over it. Draw a line with the given x and intercepts. This is not a coordinate, okay? So you don't just go 3, 5, make a point, okay? This is 2 points. This is point 1, and this is point 2. Okay, so the x-intercept, it's essentially where we've seen a y-intercept before. X-intercept would just be where the line would cross the x-axis, so 0, 1, 2, 3, okay? Now, the y-intercept, as we know, is where it crosses the y-axis, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you just take a ruler and make those a point through those, okay? Today's going to be all about 2 points. You won't be making more than 2. Okay, next one. X-intercept 1, y-intercept -4. Again, this is 2 different points. I'll have a lot of people, they'll just go to -1, -4. No, it doesn't work that way. So on the x-axis, -1 is here. On the y-axis, we already know how to do the y-intercept. That would be -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay. Okay, next one, x-intercept 4, y-intercept -3. Man, that's bad handwriting. So point 1, point 2. So, -4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So on x it's -4 is right here. Then on your y-axis, -3 is right here, okay? Now granted, that line does have a slope. I mean, if you look at the 2 points, you're down 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So slope's -3/4, but we're not concerned about slope on this assignment. Now what's the point of that, you ask? Finding the XY intercept is another way to graph a line. You would just be working with 2 points. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to put x int and y int. Okay. Now these are coordinates, both of them. Okay. Don't let the coordinate necessarily mess with your head. Now at the x-intercept, you make an xy. You actually are going to write the equation out twice. Okay. So 2x minus 8y equals -16, and then the same thing here. You might get to a point where you don't need to write it out twice, and that's fine. Now the x-intercept, you're solving for the x. You need to find the number x is, and you do that by setting your y equal to 0, and here's why. Because if I cross out my y and put times 0, 8 times 0 is 0, so that goes away. So now I'm just down to 2 times x equals -16, so I just need to get rid of the times 2 by dividing by 2, and that's -8, so x is -8. So you have your x-intercept, okay, on the x, so -8, -1, -2, -3, -4. I don't care if you number off, it doesn't matter, okay. There's your x-intercept. Now to find the y-intercept, we're solving for y. We solve for the y by getting the x out of there by setting it equal to 0. Okay, so 2 times 0 is 0. So that's a -8 now. So we divide each side by -8, and that's 2. Okay. So now 0, 2. 0 on the x is just right in the middle, but 2 on the y would be 1, 2. Okay, and those are your intercepts. That's another way you can graph linear equations. Okay, I prefer the slope y-intercept, but just for today, do the XY intercept. We usually stick with slope Y intercept on tests and stuff. Okay, so X int, Y int. Okay, so just write the equation down underneath both because you're going to be working with the same equation. So remember, these are points, so I make a coordinate out of them. So the X int, you're finding the number that the X is by getting, and you're going to put the Y at 0 to get it out of there. Okay, so now 4 times 0, because 4 times Y means 4Y means 4 times Y, but since Y is 0, 4 times 0 is 0. Then we simply divide by 3, divide by 3. So 24 divided by 3 is 8. So XY. So X8 and the Y is 0, so you don't move on the Y-axis. Okay, so that is where it crosses the X-axis. Now the Y-intercept, you're solving for Y, you're finding the number that Y is, so you're going to put the X to 0. Okay, so 3 times 0 is 0. That takes the 3 out of the equation. Then 4 times Y equals 24, so you divide by 24, or by 4, and it's 6. So on the Y-axis, that's the point where it crosses the Y-axis, because you're at 0 on X, which is there, and 6 on Y. Here you're at 8 on X, 0 on Y. Okay. Make the line through the equation, arrows on both ends. Okay. That pen's getting terrible, so I'm going to have to use this one. Okay, X minus 2Y equals negative 2. Okay, so X int, Y int. Remember, these are both coordinates that we have to figure out. XY. Write the equation down underneath both. Okay, so you're solving for the X, you're going to set the Y to 0. That's a negative 2 times 0. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. If it's times by 0, it's 0. And we do not have to do any operations because now X has no operations. It is just equal to negative 2. X does not have the multiplication that we need to divide. So on X, negative 1, negative 2, there's your X-intercept. Okay. And on the Y-intercept, you're solving for the Y. You're finding the Y value, so you're setting the X equal to 0. Okay. So 0 is not times by anything, so it just is out. Okay. But we have negative 2 times Y equals negative 2 now, so we divide each side by negative 2, and we get 1. Y equals 1. Okay, so on the Y-axis, you're at 1. Okay, so pretty easy. The points are very close together, but that's fine. They can intercept close together. Now, if you got the Y by itself and used slope Y-intercept, the line would look exactly the same. This is just another method to find the line. 3x plus 3y equals negative 15. So x int, y int. Okay, this is just an alternative method to graph a line. I like the slope intercept better. Okay, so write your equation, 3x plus 3y equals negative 15, and then write it again, because you have to solve it twice. So x-intercept, you're solving for x by setting the y equal to 0. Okay, so y becomes 0, so 3 times 0, but we know that that's 0. Okay, so on the x side, we have a multiplication by 3, so we get rid of it by dividing by 3. So negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. Okay, so x equals negative 5. So 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Okay. y-intercept. We solve for the y by setting the x equal to 0. So 3 times 0 is 0. The letter you're not solving for, because at the y-intercept you're solving for y, you're finding what y is, so you put the other letter at 0. So we have times 3, so divide by 3, divide by 3. Don't minus 3, because that plus is not between the 3 and the y. The 3 and the y is multiplication, so you have y equals, that's a negative 5. So they can be the same. They are, because you divide them by, they're the same. So now on the y-axis we go to negative 5. Okay, and those are where they cross each of the axis points. Okay. Two more of these. Okay. Negative 3x plus 6y equals 12. So x int and the y int. Okay, so write your equation down because you will need it in both places. Some people get to a point where they know exactly what to do without writing it down, but until you're there, I would write it. So x-intercept means I'm solving for the x, and I take the y equal to 0. Okay? Because on this x-axis, you're at 0. On the x-axis, you're at 0. On the y-axis, vice versa. 6 times 0 is 0. So then we divide each side by negative 3, and that is negative 4. So I just go to x, negative 4, and I put the point right there because the y is 0. I don't have to move off of it. Okay, y-intercept, you're solving for the y by setting the x to 0. Okay. Negative 3 times 0 is 0. Okay. So I divide each side by my 6, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. So on the y-axis, 1, 2. So again, okay, last problem with these, x minus 4y equals 8. Okay, so x int, y int. So the x-intercept, okay, I will be solving that for the x. I'll also be solving the y-intercept for the y. So I write the equation down. X minus 4y equals 8. X minus 4y equals 8. So I set the y to 0. Okay. So negative 4 times 0 is 0. And then x doesn't have any operation. It's just equal to 8. Okay. So x 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And I don't move on the y because y is 0. Okay, so now I'm solving for the y, so I take the x out equal to 0, so that's just 0. Now y still has an operation of multiplying by being multiplied by negative 4, so I need to solve by dividing by negative 4. Negative 4 times y equals 8, so to find the y we're going to divide. That's negative 2, since negative 4 times negative 2 would be 8. Okay, so 0, 2. Okay, and those are your two coordinates. You just map them, connect them. Okay, then the last section I'm not going to waste too much of your time with. All you're simply doing, you're finding the intercepts without the graph. Okay, you're just doing the same thing, you're just not graphing it. So at the x-intercept, we're solving for the x, y-intercept, we're solving for the y. So I'm just going to write that down twice. So you're solving for x by taking the y equal to 0. So 5 times 0 is 0, okay? Then you still got 2 times x, so you divide by 2, and x would equal 10. Okay? So that's your x-intercept. Now you're solving for the y by setting your x to 0. So what's 2 times 0? That's 0, so just take that out. You don't need to write 0, but you still got times 5. So divide by 5, y equals 4. Okay, those are the intercepts without even having to graph. Okay, 5x minus 6y equals 60. So x int, y int. I'll put them that way, it might help. Okay. Okay, so my x-intercept, we're solving for the x, y-intercept, we're solving for the y. Okay, so I write it out twice. Okay, so we put the y to 0. So negative 6 times 0 is 0. Okay, so 5 times x equals 60, so we divide by 5 on each side, and 60 divided by 5 is 12. So we have our x-intercept. Now to find our y-intercept, we set the x to 0. What's 5 times 0? 0. Okay. But we have to now divide by negative 6. 60 divided by negative 6 is negative 10. Okay. So those are your intercepts. Okay, 2x plus 4y equals 12. Okay, x int, y int. So x-intercept, we're solving for the x, y-intercept, we're solving for the y. Just write that down twice. I mean, you can do it here, you can just make another copy of it. I don't care how it's set up, but the process is the same. Okay, you can set them up here, just another one there, doesn't matter. But you solve for the x by setting the y to 0. So 4 times 0 is 0. Divide by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay. Now y-intercept, you're solving for the y, so you keep that open, and you close the x by setting it equal to 0. So 2 times 0 is 0. Divide by 4, divide by 4, 12 divided by 4 is 3. Okay, then the last one, negative x minus y equals negative 7. Okay, write it down twice. Now, one thing, I'm not a big fan, if a variable has a negative, you need to apply a 1, and likewise on the y, okay? Now, I'm fine with you. Now, I would not put a 1 if it were positive, okay? But if it's got a minus or a negative sign, it's a negative, okay? We need to kind of be cognizant of that. So the x-intercept, solving for x by x is open, the y is 0. So negative 1 times 0 is 0. But I've still got x being multiplied by negative 1, so I divide by negative 1 on each side, and I get 7. Okay, the y-intercept means the y is open. I close the x by setting that at 0. Okay, so now it's 0 for x. So negative 1x is now negative 1 times 0, which is 0. Okay. And I've got y multiplied by negative 1, so I divide by negative 1 and I come up with 7.